I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:33. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, Youth Commissioner Calix Mintanar.
Present.
Okay, Commissioner Debbie Chavaria.
Present.
Commissioner Barry Christian.
Here.
Commissioner Nance Matson.
Here.
Commissioner Shannon Hughes is absent. Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Present. Okay, we have a presentation for our first item to welcome our new commissioners.
We also have to do an oath of office.
Yes. So I am pleased to welcome a new commissioner, Debbie Chavaria. I believe I got her last name correct. And we would like to re-welcome back Nance Matson and Barry Christian to the Open Space, Active Transportation, and Sustainability Commission. We had several applicants that applied for this commission, and they all did wonderful, and the council chose you three to sit on this body, and so we're so happy to be able to work with you and continue to chipping away at our work plan and develop a new work plan, and there's so much more to come. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I believe our deputy city clerk is going to do an oath of office for Commissioner Chavaria.
Commissioner Chavaria, could you please go up to the podium? And raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Debbie Chavaria,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution to the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties in which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's my honor. Thank you.
And our next presentation is Marin Clean Energy.
Thank you, Chair. So we are happy to welcome Mariella Herrick with Marin Clean Energy. She is the Senior Community Development Manager, and she's here to tell you all the wonderful things about MCE and what it can do for our American Canyon residents.
Hello, commissioners and city staff. My name is Mariella Herrick. I'm a Senior Community Development Manager with MCE, and I'm delighted to present some information for you all. What I'm hoping we can do today is give you all an introduction to MCE, talk about MCE's impact in American Canyon. American Canyon enrolled into MCE in 2016, almost 10 years, so thank you so much. Then I want to highlight some MCE programs, and then I'm happy to take any questions that you all have. So I want to start this presentation by making sure that and emphasizing that climate change is something that's impacting all of us. We're seeing an increase in rising temperatures, extreme weather events like wildfires, drought, and flooding, and that all has health impacts for us, whether it's longer allergy seasons or higher rates of asthmas in our community. And I think when we talk about climate change, it can sometimes feel like such a large thing to tackle. So I want to talk about things that are happening statewide and locally to address climate change. On the screen, you will see a chart breakdown on greenhouse gas emissions by sector. If you look at what's happening in the US for electric power, the greenhouse gas emissions, 25% of those 25% of greenhouse gas emissions are represented by the electric power sector. However, here in California, that number is closer to 16%, and that's because over the past 30 years, California has been very intentional about passing policy and our local communities to really reduce that greenhouse gas emission sector. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about MCE. So at MCE, our mission is to confront the climate crisis by eliminating fossil fuel greenhouse gas emissions, producing renewable energy, and creating equitable community benefits. We're a community choice aggregator, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that is. Every city in Napa is enrolled in MCE, as well as several communities in Solano County, Contra Costa County, and Marin County. We serve over 1.5 million customers, and I want to be very clear that we are a not-for-profit public agency, which means we don't have shareholders. Our board of directors is made up of 34 board members who represent your communities. So in Napa, there are 2 board directors. We have representing the city of Napa is F. Painter from City Council, and then Board of Supervisor Representative Alessio just joined the MCE board as well. So our board is responsible for setting our rates, helping make decisions around our programming, and have direct oversight into MCE. So as I mentioned before, MCE is a community choice aggregation program. And that's because in 2002, the state passed Assembly Bill 117, which allowed for more local control in the energy market. So oftentimes folks ask, what does this mean when MCE is part of my community? So I want you to think of your utility bill in 2 parts. Where does your power come from, and how does that power get to your home or business? So when a community like American Canyon decides to join MCE, what happens is that MCE takes over entering into contracts and procuring more renewable energy that is put onto the electric grid. PG&E still owns all the pipes and wires in this area, so they're in charge of delivering that electricity to your home or business, but now you have more access to cleaner, renewable energy and local control. So I want to talk a little bit about your energy choices. So before MCE, you only had one option, which was your PG&E option for, and that standard renewable energy is at 38%. Anyone who enrolls in MCE is automatically put into our light green option, which is 60% renewable energy. And then for approximately $5 for the average residential household, more, you can opt up to 100% renewable energy. And so I want to share a bit of a bill example so you all can see it. So this is an example of a bill that just has PG&E service and does not have MCE. What you can see here is on the line item, the electric delivery charges are bundled together with the generation charges. But when you have MCE, your bill will be broken down into 2 line items, which is the generation charges, where your energy is coming from. If you have gas, that will be in there as well, and then your delivery charges. So I want to be very clear that it's not an additional charge, it's just a further breakdown on the charges of how your utility bill works. And so I do have a residential cost comparison for you all. MCE tries to keep our rates really stable. We haven't raised our rates since 2023. And typically, if we do raise them, it's only once a year, and it's something that our board of directors votes on. And so here on the screen, you will see an example of our residential cost comparison. We are right now slightly cheaper than PG&E. And so oftentimes folks ask, Are there any discount programs? If I was previously in a discount program, does it still apply to me? So programs like CARE, FARA, and Medical Baseline, all folks who were on those programs are still enrolled in those programs when they transition to MCE. And in a few slides, I'll share what that breakdown is specifically for American Canyon. I also want to flag that this isn't on here. We have a program called MCE Cares Credit, which is an additional $5 million that MCE allocates to add on top of these discounts to folks whose energy accounts are currently in arrears or qualify into the CARE program. We give them an additional discount of $20 a month. And then for rooftop solar customers, you can see the difference here. Folks would get 2 cents more of the additional wholesale rate for having rooftop solar. So I want to get into the community benefits and talk about American Canyon a little bit more specifically. So the participation rate, which is how many folks are enrolled in MCE in the community, is around 87%. That is standard with what we're seeing across in comparison to other communities here in Napa County. Deep Green, which is that option for folks who decided to opt up to 100% renewable energy, is around 7%. 22% of folks have solar on their homes, and then 22% of the community is also part of the CARE discount, and 6% is the Medical Baseline program. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some benefits that have happened in the community. So electric vehicle rebates, I'll talk about that in a second. MCE has a program to help multifamily and workplace sites install EV charging programs. There's been 4 installed in the area, and then the EV rebate is an income qualified program that helps folks buy new or used electric vehicles. So as I mentioned, we have an EV charging program for any workplace or multifamily site. So if you are one of those sites and want to install EV charging, you would get $3,000 per port at a maximum of 20 ports per site. I want to flag that this program is super important as we are thinking about moving more towards electric vehicles in our communities. And the other thing that this program offers is free technical assistance. I think oftentimes when I'm speaking to people, they don't know if their site makes sense to have electric vehicle charging, but the technical assistance is no cost to the person who signs up for it, and they can work with our team to assess and figure out how much it will cost to actually install a charger there, what they will need, if they have the electric panel to be able to do it, and address some of those questions so they have the information to make an informed choice. You are not, if you do technical assistance, it does not mean that we expect you to install an EV charger. It's an option to further educate yourself and make the decisions that's best for your workplace site or your multifamily property. And again, the MCE EV rebate is available for income qualified customers. It stacks with other rebates that exist in the Bay Area and can be up to $3,500 for the purchase of an electric vehicle. There are several energy efficiency programs that MCE has. One that I want to highlight is the SBEA, Small Business Energy Advantage Program, which will provide free energy coaching to small businesses, typically the size of a small coffee shop, a small grocery store. And then those sites would get an energy coach to do an audit to see where there's opportunity to do changes at no cost to them, and then MCE can provide up to $4,000 in upgrades that would help make that site more energy efficient. And finally, I just want to close out with the power of MCE. On the screen, you'll see some of the impact we've had across our service area. We've been able to reduce over 500,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions since 2010, and I'm happy to take your questions at this time.
Wonderful, thank you. I do have a question about the Deep Green.
Yeah.
Are there tools available to the city to help residential customers convert to Deep Green? This is one of on our list of sustainability initiatives for the city.
Yeah, so we have a Deep Green Advocate Toolkit that I'm happy to share with staff to share with you all. It has everything from newsletter articles to information around Deep Green, as well as customizable flyers that you all can just print and download and add your logo. So that's a toolkit that we have that we can easily make available to you all.
Wonderful, thank you. Commissioner Mattson?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, I was interested in the commercial, the EV charging ports, and the small business energy management program. Are you working with the Chamber of Commerce or any other American Canadian organizations to try to get those into the community?
Yeah, so we are members of the Chamber of Commerce, and yeah, we're always looking for opportunities. So if you all have organizations or recommendations on who we should talk to do more of that, we're happy to do that. One thing that I didn't mention is we also sponsor events. So if there is a sponsorship opportunity in a community, if organization is hosting something, we'd be happy to do that. And we found that that's also been helpful in being able to promote some of these programs.
Is there an apartment owner organization in town, do you know? Because I'm thinking that might be a good access point for the apartment owners.
Yeah. Yeah, if you all have,
I don't have a
I don't have a contact for like multifamily or apartment buildings, but if there is one, we would be happy to take it and happy to meet with them and share more information so they could make the decision if the program is right for them.
And do you give them technical assistance in terms of what charging network to use, or how do they, recoup their costs? And
So we will share a list of vendors that explains kind of the different offerings that they have, but we are also a public agency, so we can't necessarily recommend a specific vendor or anything.
okay. I think that's it. I'm hoping you're going to supply your slides to Allie so you can distribute them, because they're great
Yeah.
slides.
Yeah, we are happy to distribute the slides. Allie has my contact information. If any of you want to meet with me and talk specifically about any program, I'm happy to do that and happy to answer any questions.
Thanks. I have one more question
Yeah.
about demand response.
Yeah.
How much traction do you have on demand response? Are you using PG&E's demand response program, or does MCE have its own demand response program?
I don't know about the traction, so I will have to find out, and I can share a little bit more about that. And I know there have been a few changes to our demand response program, so I don't want to misspeak, so I'll just follow up with some information on that.
Okay, I'm just out of date on it, so I don't
Yeah.
know where it is statewide. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you for asking.
Commissioner Hughes?
Sorry, I was in a punk band when I was a kid. A curiosity about MCE. Do you guys are basically building infrastructure, or more of a broker for infrastructure?
So we enter into long-term power purchase agreements for power across the state of California.
Okay. And then my other question: did you guys have anything to do with some of the solar chargers that we see as close as the old elementary school here?
I'm not familiar with. Is it?
Or there's no actual infrastructure in place. It's just. Help me out, Allie.
Are you talking about the EV charging stations? Those were grants.
Okay.
Yeah, those were grants that we received. But I don't think they were directly from MCE, no.
Okay.
But the city could apply to the rebate. It does apply to municipal sites. So if the city wanted to do more EV charging, or if a school did, that is something that we could support with either technical assistance, or if you are ready to do it and want to apply to the rebate, that's something we could support with as well.
Okay. And then, are they being used? Do you find they're being used pretty regularly?
Yes, they are used.
Okay, that's
Yep.
cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Christian?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. In the beginning, you had a graph, and it showed that California's percentage of emissions due to electric generation was 16%, and the rest of the country was up in 24 or something. I also noticed that California's emissions due to transportation was a larger percentage than across the country. And I'm curious, I know we have pretty tight emission standards in California, so I would think that our emissions would be lower for transportation. They're higher. Maybe it's because we have more cars. Do you know?
I don't know what's driving those numbers to be that high. This is 2022 data, so I imagine there might be some changes with that, but I do know that because transportation greenhouse gas emissions are really high, that is why the state has really had a push to do more electric vehicle charging. It is a little bit of a chicken and an egg situation where, folks, there is hesitation to buy electric vehicles because of the lack of charging, but then there is challenges for more electric vehicle charging installation because of the demand of electric vehicles. So I'm not quite sure fully what is driving that 39% transportation, but I do know that is something that is being talked about a lot in policy around and program. How do we address that issue?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Mattson?
So I used to work in this field, so
Oh.
that's why I have more questions. Do you know what the total, per capita emissions U.S. versus California? Because I think that's what might be skewing this, is that California has a very aggressive energy efficiency and energy standards. So it might be the per capita electric power is smaller, but I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't know that off the top
That's
of my
okay,
head,
it's
but
fine.
I can find out and report back.
I'd be curious to see how it is, and I could probably dig it up some more. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to open it up for public comment. For items not on the agenda, there's no one in the audience. So do we have any online or written comments?
Excuse me. We do have Kara Werner online. Kara, I'm going to I'll ask you to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi there. This is Kara Werner with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition. Good evening, commissioners. I wanted to just pop in and make sure you knew about Bike Fest, which is coming up on May 4th, so just about 2 months from now. It will be in the South Napa Century Center, and I'm so happy that Mariella is there. And hopefully she's still in the room because MCE is one of our major sponsors for this event, so we're very grateful for their support. And I'll also just note that this year, Julia Salvador of the American Canyon Bike Shop is going to be doing a Stretching for Bicyclists demonstration. But we have lots of cool stuff happening, some of the same stuff we've had in the past and some new stuff as well. And we have a new website that's totally dedicated to the event. It's napabikefest.org. So I hope you will check that out, and I hope you will all join us if you can. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no additional speakers.
Okay. Public comment is closed at this time. Do we have any agenda changes?
Sorry, I was having mic. Couldn't figure out how to turn on. Yes, Chair. I would like to ask the commission if it would be okay to move item number 7 of our business up to be item number 5, and then everything else will just follow as is.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. Oh, Jesus.
Roll call?
Yes, just one moment. Okay. Just a second. I'm sorry. We've got a new commission. Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Nance Mattson,
Yes.
Commissioner Debbie Chavaria. Okay, she has stepped out. And Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, for our consent calendar, we have the minutes from November 6th. Do I have a motion to accept?
I move.
I'll
Accept.
second.
Roll call?
Okay, just one moment, please, sorry. Bear with me, I apologize. Okay, yes. Commissioner Barry Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Nance Matson,
Yes.
Commissioner Debbie Chavaria,
Yes.
and Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Yes. Our first item of business tonight is the selection of chair and vice chair, and I would like to nominate Chair Commissioner Matson for chair.
I'll second that.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Do I get to say anything?
We'll tell you when you can speak.
I'm sorry?
We'll tell you when you can speak.
Want to nominate vice chair at the same time and do the vote?
We have to do them separately.
We do,
I
okay.
apologize, hold on just one
So
second.
actually, before we go to the voting on it, is that there are 3 months this year that I'm not going to be around. So I'm concerned about coverage for, I think it's a month of, well, April, October, and December. So if whoever becomes vice chair can handle those months, I don't think we have a problem, but I'm concerned about that. And I'm very willing to be chair again, but I'm hoping that someone else will want to be chair the year after, and we move it around a bit. So there you go. So
Just-
I don't know if Ally, if you want to say anything about me missing 3 meetings and, you know.
No, I mean, as long as your vice chair understands that you will be out and they will be the chair of those meetings, I think that's more than acceptable. I just want to know where you're going.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably an
wanna
epic,
come with?
amazing trip.
I just a point of order. The way we've kind of always done this when we were a committee was we could nominate, but that there could be some discussion if other people wanted to make another nomination, right? I think that's how we've done it. So I just want to let people, I don't intend to, but I just wanted to bring that up in case anybody else did want to. So we didn't steamroll.
So I guess I've done my discussion of, let's encourage all of us to become chair at some point, so.
Is anybody else interested? Chair? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we could vote. I'm ready to vote.
Yes, Commissioner Debbie Chavaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry Christian,
Yes.
Commissioner Nance Matson,
Yes,
Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Yes.
Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Yes.
Okay.
thank you for your confidence. I'll do my best.
And thank you, Tara, for being a great chair for us these last, how many years was it? 2, couple years? Yeah, you did a great job, and thank you.
I second that. You did an amazing job.
Thank you. Okay, so do you nominate vice chair now?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any
I'd like-
nominations?
I'd like to nominate Tara McClinton Horner for vice chair.
I second the motion.
I'll get you a vote, just one moment. All right, Commissioner Debbie Chavaria,
Yes.
Commissioner Barry Christian,
Yes?
Commissioner Nance Matson,
Yes,
Commissioner Sean Hughes,
Yes.
Chair Tara McClinton Horner.
Yes.
Okay, changing of the guard.
can I chair from over here? Or do I need to change seats?
You will switch seats, and I will have everything renumbered by the next meeting.
Okay. So as I say, I can reach the buttons from here if that's okay.
If
You want
oh,
us-
you can chair. Oh, for tonight,
Yeah.
you can chair from where you are.
Okay, great.
I just meant for the next meeting. I apologize.
Oh, no, it's fine. I realized that wasn't clear.
Makes you so eager, though.
Who, me? Well, I'm happy to be chair again. It's been a nice 2 years not being chair, and I'm really enjoying how we're working with staff and as a commission, so let's do it. Okay, so our next item is we moved FY 24-25 work plan recap to be next. So Allie, go for it.
Thank you, Chair Mattson.
You're welcome.
So we are here this evening to provide a recap and to get Commissioner Chavarria up to speed on what we've been working on and how this commission works. You all are familiar with how this commission was established. Originally, it was a committee, the open space, I forget the acronym, OSAC, the Open Space Committee, and
Advisory Committee.
Advisory Committee, thank you. And we did a ton of work with our council, and we eventually turned that committee into a proper commission that oversees open space, active transportation, and sustainability. This commission, just like our Parks and Community Service Commission, serves as an advisory body for our council. So it's advisory on policy-making decisions, and most of the time the items will come here, we will discuss them. This commission will take a look at it, and then they will provide their recommendation to council. And that is done through city staff. And part of that is each year this body meets with our council and does a work plan session. And the council sets our work plan for each fiscal year. So I'm here to just provide an update of where we are on our work plan, which was approved on June 18, 2024 for this fiscal year, which is 2024-2025. The work plan will be done as of June 30th, and then we will have a new work plan starting the new fiscal year. And that work will start to take place in May. We'll start talking about what we want to see on the next work plan, and then we'll bring that to council and have both the council and the commission interface and discuss what we would like to focus on for the next fiscal year. So far of our projects, we've reviewed several key projects, including the Clark Ranch fuel reduction and replanting plan, our new open space improvements, which are complete, and we're super proud of that project. It was the parking lot pavement, as well as trail enhancements. And then we did the Green Island Road Class 1 trail and the Wetlands Edge Enhancement Project. Additionally,
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes.
Just for clarification, you're not going down the list. You're going through areas. So
Correct.
It may be hard to follow you against the list. So
Correct. I'm actually just doing an overview of the staff
okay,
report.
Great. Thanks.
And then the commission formalized and developed our trail standards for the new open space preserve. And we received approval from the Land Trust of Napa County to allow Class 1 electrical bikes up in Newell open space. And we have reviewed so far the Newell management plan, which is a draft 1. And tonight you'll be reviewing draft 2, which is pretty much everything that it's encompassing of what we worked so far. Additionally, we have staff has engaged WRA, a consulting firm, to conduct a biological survey for mammals, amphibians, and birds up in Newell open space, and they are assisting with the update with the Newell management plan. It was important that we chose WRA because they are the firm that is helping draft the management plan for Jaeger open space, which is going to be an adjacent property that potentially is going to be coming to the city and increasing our open space footprint here in American Canyon. City staff has also engaged with RRM Design Group, a consulting firm, to assist with the update to the Parks and Community Services Master Plan. RRM is currently under contract, and staff has held a kickoff meeting and discussed the planning process and what that's going to look like over the next 18 to 24 months of updating our Parks and Community Services Master Plan, which was originally developed in 2011. We are planning to bring RRM here to this body on May 7th to discuss some open space initiatives that this commission would like to include. And then the commission is actively working with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition to apply for the League of American Bicyclists bicycle-friendly community designation, and is working with NVTA on updating the combined bicycle and pedestrian plan. Looking ahead, we have still several projects that we are working and chipping away at, and you're going to see that's going to go on this evening and over the next several meetings. So we received a presentation from Marin Clean Energy this evening. I will share those slides with you. It's a lot of great information, and it's a really great program that we can try to get American Canyon residents educated about what MCE is. We also will be reviewing draft number 2, which of the Newell Management Plan, which is pretty much the whole draft of what we are going to be proposing. We are continuing our work with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition and applying for the Bicyclist Bicycle Friendly Community designation. We are continuing to work with NVTA on the update combined bicycle and pedestrian plan. We will meet with RRM and update the Parks and Community Services Master Plan. And we will review the fiscal year 25-26 capital improvement program that pertains to open space, active transportation, and sustainability projects. And then we will develop a work plan for fiscal year 25-26. The following work plan initiatives are on hold. Engage and receive a presentation on the East Contra Costa County Habitat Conservancy about the Habitat Conservation Plan and Natural Community Conservation Plan. This is on hold pending a South County 2x2 with our council. They want to meet with the county first, and then they'll come back and give us further direction. And then community engagement about sustainability initiatives and intern climate action plan, which is on hold with no further details at this time. And that is our staff report. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Anybody have any questions? I don't see any light up, so I think we're good. Thank you so much, Ali. Oh, I'm sorry.
For questions and public comment?
I'm sorry, I've gotten.
Sorry, is this open for questions and public comment?
It's open for I'm so rusty now.
Questions first typically will happen
Yeah.
with the commission. They'll just ask questions about, to the staff. And then secondly, we'll open it up for public comment to the public, and that's where the public makes public comment. And then we'll close public comment, and then normally the chair will go back to the commission to just make sure there isn't any finalized details before we move on.
So I'll reopen it for commissioner questions.
No questions.
No questions, thank you. And is there any public comment?
There's no public comment either in the room or on Zoom.
Okay, I can circle back for more questions from us, but I think we're good. So thank you very much, Director Akita. Our next item, sorry, I've got to go back to my agenda, is the Newell Open Space Preserve Biological Survey Scope of Work. Off to you.
Great, thank you, Chair. So as you can see, we have engaged and we are currently working with WRA to, well, they did conduct a biological survey back on January 17th up in Newell Open Space. We have received their draft report, so we're currently going through that, and we are going to be meeting with them and asking them any further questions. I don't really have an update with the draft, nothing to report back as of yet. But I know that they did do a biological survey like we had asked for mammals, amphibians, and birds, and that was mainly because since the management plan, the original management plan was adopted and approved back in 2001, and it had been some time, and since then we've gained public access. There's been a lot of development around the property, so we just really wanted to make sure that the management plan moving forward had updated information.
Thank you. Any questions on that?
On the plan, on the
plan,
comments?
on the biological survey?
I was reading this today, and I can't remember if my question was in this section or was in the next section where it was the whole plan. But it applies to the plan, so I'll just try it out. So I was reading that, and I was reading something that was in the original plan, and it said that because the clay soils here, they absorb a lot of water, and then in the summer they dry out and crack, and it says it makes it really hard to establish woody growth because the cracking interferes with the roots. And when I read that initially, I took it kind of as a challenge because I looked around and I go, there's trees here up on the hill, and there's no forest. There's a lot in the forest. And I said, I want to test that. So I planted 4 trees from my yard up by the barn. You'll see it where that kiosk is up there. That's about 10 years ago now. Those trees are all 12, 15 feet tall, and they've actually started producing their own acorns. And I don't know where that information came from initially, but the other trees that we planted up there, the oak trees, they're doing great. And I never, it didn't make sense to me. I mean, yeah, maybe it's true, but I wanted to test it. And from my experience, it didn't really seem to make a difference. It might be incorrect, I don't know. But
So Commissioner
problem
Christian,
was that
it's on the next item. So finish up quickly, and then we'll remember to bring it back when we talk about the next item.
Okay.
Okay?
The problem was it could discourage us from trying to plant trees. Oh, well, can't do it, so let's not.
Okay, so we'll hold that for the next item. Commissioner Chavaria?
Yes, thank you. I have a question regarding the site visit. One WRA biologist will conduct a one-day site visit to perform a Renaissance survey of sections of the site that may potentially host special status species. I'm just curious as to why only one day? Is that common?
It is common. WRA was one of the 3 consultants that we had reached out to get expertise and what they would recommend. And they said that they were able to do what they needed to do with this property on a one-day visit. And the great thing about it is they did some additional research too. So it's just like a one-day visit to the site, but there's more work behind the scenes that they do. So they're very familiar with Napa County. They're already working on the management plan for Yeager Open Space. So they already had a ton of information. But the one-day visit was really just to kind of get a feel for the property and see what type of animals that they were able to spot.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Christian?
Thank you. So this is an interesting question. I'm glad you brought it up. But the same thing is happening with the development. So if there's a warehouse development, when the survey's done, the biologist goes out, they're there one day and say, well, okay, we didn't see any of this particular species or that particular species. It's only one day. But if you look around and talk to people that are in that community, they see those animals out there. And when you do a BioBlitz, there, you'll see them where everybody comes in and participates. And so, and I've been working with Yvonne Baginski a little bit on this idea of a habitat conservation plan. And what she reports to me is that she'll go out and find all these animals, and it doesn't make sense to just do a one day and they're not there, so you say, oh, they're not. Now maybe with Newell, as Ali says, we have the previous studies, and so I'm not quite as concerned about that at Newell because we've had time to figure out what's up there and what's not. But in terms of the development, that guy doesn't see it in that one day, and then the development's approved, and maybe those animals are out there, and maybe the development is affecting them. So I think it's a good question, and it's a good issue, and I'd like to see more about it. And maybe it'll come up at a planning commission meeting or at a city council meeting when some of the warehouse proposals are approved, because we don't know if enough is being done to document what's actually out there. Thank you.
Commissioner McClinton-Turner.
I'd like to add to what Barry was saying. It did say in the report that they recognize that there could be seasonal changes that aren't in there, and maybe the Indian paintbrush, for example. I don't know what time of year they're coming, but what if that's not here when they're here? Yeah. Anyway, I had a question. I wondered, do you know if they're consulting with iNaturalist to also observe? See what's there?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was a term that I was unfamiliar with. It was protocol level assessment, and it was in reference to endangered species. That there would only be a protocol level assessment performed, and I wondered what that meant.
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Shavaria, Commissioner McClinton Horner, you can use the Matson button, but don't touch the other buttons, please.
Did I touch another one?
Yeah, you turned her button off.
Oh, I meant to just touch the Matson button.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Reflex.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you and points well taken. And that was my concern, is that one day wasn't enough. And I think that the point that you brought up about the developer is valid, and thank you.
Do you know whether they use the wildlife camera footage? Because I think that would be a way to capture more year-round. And I don't. I
No,
know
we
that
didn't give
Sean's
them,
been- I
yeah,
don't
we
know if
didn't
you're
give them
still doing-
access to that. But based off of so Jeff, who is our open space recreation coordinator, he has reviewed it and he felt it was a well-done report based off of first glance. But I had some questions about making sure that all the certain animals were captured or certain species were captured, and he did reassure me that it was a well done report, and that when he went through it, it had identified protected or endangered species and all that stuff. So they did do a pretty good extensive job, because like I said, it wasn't just the site visit. They do a ton of research behind the scenes, and they know this area and what should be there, and so they kind of know what to look for.
Thank you. Commissioner McClinton Horner?
I just had one more thing I just remembered. There was a detail that noted that there was a wildlife assessment, biological being performed, but not plants.
We did not do plants. It was only mammals, amphibians, and birds.
Okay. So even
When
though,
we originally, a couple months ago at one of the meetings, we had discussed and consulted with the land trust, and they had recommended that it's not really necessary because the topography and the environment hasn't changed in itself. And so we narrowed down, and we wanted to put all of our efforts in towards the changing of the species out there, the animal species, because of the development around and because of public access.
okay. There are two things come to mind. I wonder if the fire had an impact that could have changed some of that, and also going back to the Indian paintbrush. So since that is an endangered one, that's still included in the report, even though it's botanical.
Yeah, so when you look at the current, when we get to the next item, you're going to notice that the geological survey, the vegetation surveys, all that is original to the original plan, because we did not do any updated biological surveys for those.
But we don't know, like, it's not verified that it's present.
I think it was verified in the management plan that it is present.
The original.
The previous one, and it's going to be in it. Whatever was identified in the previous should be in the one that you reviewed as the new updated management plan, because we didn't change any of those findings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Christian?
I think that's a good point, because I think that Jake Rugit was the one that found that, and I think it's called the Tiburon paintbrush, because the Indian paintbrush is what we knew about, and then he found Tiburon paintbrush. And so it might not have been in there and might not ever get into there, but he actually did the original plant survey. He did the one for, yeah, so I wonder if we could consider adding that to it, since it has been observed by the person that did the original study. Maybe there's a way to just not to do a whole new study, but just to update that plan.
The great thing about the management plan and the way that we've designed it is that it's a living document. So it is intended to change. It's intended to be updated over time. If this body makes the recommendation and we get approval from council for budget allocation to go out and do a botanical survey, we can absolutely do that. We can absolutely update that section. Because the great thing about it, this plan is not intended to just sit on a shelf. It's intended to be a useful document that staff can use, that this commission can use, the community understands the type of property that it is, what we have up there, what we can and cannot do. It is intended to be updated through time.
Yeah, and I respect the land trust's advice that it wasn't really necessary. But I'm curious then, we're doing the biological for mammals and amphibians. Was it primarily focused on special status species that we're just going out there to see if there's anything that's on the endangered species list that we need to know about or think about?
I don't recall that it was only on special status because like I mentioned, it was a biological survey for mammals, amphibians, and birds. I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Commissioner Christian. But that wasn't the intent of the biological survey, was to only focus on special status species.
So that wasn't.
That wasn't the intent.
More to, yeah.
No.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Commissioner Shavaria?
Yes, thank you. I have one more question. I understand that the WRA will not be reviewing the project for CEQA compliance, the California Environmental Quality Act. I was just curious as to why.
So CEQA applies to projects. If you're planning on, it's the California Environmental Quality Act. And so if we wanted to go up there and make a significant change to the property, i.e. put in a new trail, that would be considered a new project, and we would be required to do CEQA. Since this isn't a project that's changing the environment, CEQA does not apply because they're just doing a biological survey.
Thank you.
Commissioner McClintock, did I not turn the button off, or do you have another question?
Oh, the button didn't get turned.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, any other questions?
She should have let you turn in a moment.
Great. Thank you. Oh, I have a question. So that survey is going to come to us to look at some point, right?
It will, yes. And we are going to, once we have a better understanding of what it means, we are going to put it in the Newell management plan, and then that section will be complete as well. So.
Right. Yeah, so that section's going to be revised based on this.
Correct.
I
Yeah, we're
realize.
waiting. Like I said, we just received it. We're trying to process it and understand it. And Jeff has reviewed it. I just have not been able to connect with him. And they're going to provide updated material for that section for us to be able to add to the management plan.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And it looks like Commissioner Shavaria, do you have another question, or did I just not get to your button?
I don't think you got to my
Sorry. Okay, next item is the Newell Open Space Management Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So we have been working on this plan for quite some time. We had identified that this needed to be something that we focus on. Like I mentioned previously, this plan is intended to be a living document and is intended to move through time. It is not intended to sit on a shelf and collect dust. So it is part of our work plan that the council approved to start that process, and we've been working through that in pieces throughout the past fiscal year. We already reviewed the first draft, which was all the surveys. We took out the biological survey. We got budget allocation to go out for the biological survey for the mammals, amphibians, and birds. We have done that. And then draft number 2, which is pretty much all the other work, the trail standards, the type of property, how we're gonna operate it, how we're going to maintain it. All those pieces have come to you in some shape or form, and now it's just been put into this plan as one document. And that is what is before you this evening. So it is taking all the work that we've done over the last several months and sticking it in a document. And so hopefully, moving forward, 20 years from now, hopefully, maybe I'll be here, maybe I won't. That plan is really intended to tell anybody the type of property that is, how we are going to manage and operate it. And then looping in and making sure that it is consistent with the conservation easement. We did a ton of work around that and understanding what the conservation easement is. That was a huge piece that was missing from the original management plan. But really, we really wanted to focus on the type of property that we had and how we were going to manage and operate it and still be consistent with the conservation easement. So that is what is before you this evening. It is the everything that we've been working on together minus the updated biological survey that we just talked about.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go back to Commissioner Christians for him to bring forward his soil and trees question. And if you can add that into your comments, I mean, just revisit and talk about where it is in the document, that'd be great.
Oh, I don't know where it was in the document.
okay.
It was in the description, but I'm just not sure it's accurate. Maybe it's the conventional wisdom, but from our direct experience, it didn't seem to be as determinative as they might make it sound. I don't know that it matters, but we didn't experience that problem so far, and I think that what they said is you don't get the roots established, but because our method is watering the plants and the tree's been providing water, they fill up the water tank we have. Maybe because of the fact that we're irrigating it, it overcomes that, and maybe that's good advice for planting trees where you're not watering them, but for us, because we watered them, and so that just kind of tells me that we can plant oak trees anywhere we want, and that's a kind of a game changer. If we use volunteers to water them, we can reforest a lot of these areas, and there seems to be a lot of good reasons to want to do that with climate change and diversity of species and all of those things. So that was my point on that. My general.
Can I interrupt you for a second? I did find it. It's on page 52 of the package, section 5.3 soils. It's a very long sentence. Actually, the sentence is 5 lines long. Did you want to modify that?
No, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe it's good advice if we're not watering them, or maybe they put, I don't know.
It does have the word may indirectly contribute, so.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
I'll just leave it. And I just wanted to say I think that staff did a really good job on this, on the whole plan. And it was a very difficult task because of all the different factors, the conservation easement, the grazing, the bicyclists, pedestrians, public access, the whole thing. And so I hope you learned a lot through the process, and I hope that it's useful information, but I just want to.
I'm the Newell expert.
It was a lot, and you were just coming in here kind of,
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah. But I think you did well, and you communicated well. And one of the things I like is that we included, I guess it's I don't know if it's an ordinance, but that bicyclists need to slow down to 5 miles an hour when they're passing, which is the standard up on Mount Tamalpais they've been using for quite a while, 15 years, I think. And they actually enforce it. They have rangers with radar guns up there. But I personally don't care how fast anybody wants to ride at Newell, but I think when you come along people that are walking, it doesn't detract from my bicycle experience to have to slow down to 5 miles an hour when I pass them. There's not that many up there. It doesn't seem like a great burden, but I think it makes a big difference to a pedestrian who's walking along rather than have somebody come flying by at 30 miles an hour. It's just like, why do you have to do that? Why can't you just, okay, I'll slow down for this person and then I'll take off afterwards? So I'm glad you put that in there. And I think you fought for the electric bicycles too, because I doubt that the Land Trust was going to give us that. So, but overall, I like the plan. I think it's well done, and I think you guys did a good job.
Commissioner Chavarria?
Yes, thank you. I'm catching up here. So who created this, actually? Who are the authors? Because I enjoyed reading this. This was, to me, fantastic, and I learned so much, and I read it twice. So I was just curious how.
So this was a combination of taking the old plan. There was a lot of great, useful information that we tried to keep but modernize. So we just updated the language. And bringing a lot of these pieces and elements to this body to approve before we put it in here. But the majority of the work has been done by city staff to put it all together. And then I forgot to mention earlier, and I think it was in my staff report, but WRA is going to be reviewing it as well, because we want to make sure that we aren't missing anything and it makes sense. And once they bring that once they provide their comments, we'll bring that to this body to review as well. But it was a combination of this body and city staff and the old, I shouldn't say the old, the previous management plan content.
Well, it was great. I do have one comment. I think there was on page 53, kind of going, it has to do with water. Basically, it said that I think the study or the observation that was from 1906 to 1956 predicts that the site receives an average annual precipitation of between 16 to 20 inches. That's sufficient information, I guess?
That's information that was carried over from the previous management plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have 4 main questions, and then I apologize. I know the last times you've brought them, I've given you a nice little document. I ran out of time this week. So before let me go into the main issues, and I have just a follow-up question. So I noticed this version has a new section about the frogs, right? We didn't have that before.
It
so-
does, yes.
So
We did a
thank
ton
you.
of research internally, and so we updated it with all the information that we had, that we found, old records and everything. So that has been updated with all of the records that we have.
Okay, thank you. And it was very thorough. I was like, wow. So my question is, do we still know whether those ponds were accepted? Because it seemed like there was some wording. Let's see, let me see which page it is. It said something about the Jack and Bernice Newell.
Page 6.
Page 8 of page 44 of our package, page 8 of the plan. Second paragraph. They could retain mitigation rights only for these 2 developments if the work was completed before January 1st, 2005. It doesn't say whether the work was completed and whether they were. I know we've been going around this.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever resolved this.
Okay, let me double check this. Jeff, like I mentioned, our recreation coordinator, he actually wrote this section based off of the information that he was able to find. So let me check with him on that one.
Okay. And I have a very obtuse comment I wrote in my thing. See paragraph deleted from October draft. So I'll go back and write
Okay.
up that document for you that
Great.
kind of goes page by page and I saw a lot of our comments were incorporated, so I was really happy about that. I had a question about water on, let's see, I must have written the wrong page down. Oh, page 45. 3.0, the second paragraph.
I'm sorry, Chair, I don't mean to interrupt you really quick, but can you please let me know what, I didn't put out the whole packet. I only have
sorry.
the draft in
So
front
it's
of me.
page 9 of the draft?
Thank you.
Yeah, 3.0 vegetation and wildlife. The second paragraph talks about how there's abundant water, which is true, but we've had trouble accessing it for doing cattle watering. So in terms of cattle troughs and things like that, do we need to put that into this paragraph, or do you think it's just the fact that, yeah, there's abundance of water, good luck?
Yeah, where the cattle grazing area is, there isn't, yes, there's natural springs, but for the most part, the cattle gets their water from Lynch Canyon. That's why there's that open grazing element between the
Okay.
properties.
So they go over there and get their water and come back
Yes.
and graze?
Yeah.
Okay. And then my third thing was, in the rules. It's page 55 of the packet, which means it's page 19 of the plan, number 5. Actually, number 5 is just a typo,
Okay.
elective rather than electric, and I'll make
Oh,
a list of those. I have,
Thank you.
yeah, I'll make a list of that. I'm not going to bring up, unless you have somebody who's going to copy edit. I used to do technical editing, so I
Please
just
send me all
copy
your
edit at the
edits.
same time.
I proofread these things. You know, there's so many people
Oh.
that look at it, and it's just
Sometimes
things get missed.
Yeah, so you'd like me to throw my list together?
Absolutely. I will
So-
accept it.
Okay, great. So back to technical things. Number 6, when bicyclists reduce speed to 5 miles per hour, is that also approaching people or just wildlife and cattle?
It actually should be people as well. So thank you. I can add people.
Okay, great.
Say mammals. Covers it all.
Yeah, mammals. Yeah. Has Lena had a chance to review this, or are you waiting until after WRA does their bit?
So each of these pieces have already been reviewed by her when they were brought to this commission. So she's been very involved. And I did send the entire plan over to her for review too. So I'll incorporate her comments if she has any.
Great, okay. And is there a reason there's no figure numbers or captions on the figures?
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, just to say figure 1 and what it is?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Over by the images.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then in the
No,
text, you
that's
can
just
refer
me
to
just
it.
not knowing.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay.
Okay,
I
I
believe
can.
that's the bulk of my questions.
Perfect.
And I'll send you my little copy edit list, and you can use them or ignore them.
Fantastic.
Okay. Commissioner Christian, please.
Okay, this is a comment. I've had the opportunity to talk with Jeff a number of times out there, and he's terrific. He's very knowledgeable, he's thorough, easy to talk to, and he's doing some great work. So kudos to you guys for bringing him on board. And one of the things he told me was that I think it was in 2010 when the city, at the urging of our open space committee, asked them to make a decision on public access at Newell. They did a bunch of research and studies, and he got a hold of that somehow. I had no idea that was there. And in answer to your question, there's apparently a difference between a wetlands and red-legged frog. Whether it suffices for mitigation for red-legged frog, or if it just is something else which is also valuable but not quite that, and where it's like declared to be a wetlands. And so it passed one and not the other. So it made part of it and not the other part.
Thank you, Commissioner Christian. I would like to add some context to that because he educated me quite a lot on this as well, because I know in the past management plan there was a lot of reference to the red-legged frog and protecting that habitat. And what he had informed me is that if red-legged frog was found on this property at any time, that section of that property would be closed to public access and so many feet beyond it. And so to your point, they are mitigated for wetlands, but they may not be mitigated for red-legged frog, is what we were able to determine.
Oh, that's helpful. Okay, so do we think that those mitigation ponds then are for wetlands and we can support them as wetlands habitat, but we can't make them into non-wetlands habitat?
Yeah, and I think there were some ponds that were even created prior to my time that we did not get credit for. And so I'll go back and brush up what he had shared with me and make sure that the management plan is written correctly. And I believe it is, but there were some ponds that we tried to go out and get credit for, but I don't think we were successful in receiving that credit, even though they were created, if that makes sense. But I'll go back and I'll double check those areas with him.
Thank you. It's just good to know which ones,
Yeah.
need to stay wetlands and which ones we can decide, oh, it'd be nice to have wetlands here, but they're not really functioning that way.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? I think this is great. I'm really impressed, so.
Just thank you.
So we're going to move on to the.
I think we have to do public comment on this. We
oh my
haven't done
gosh,
that yet.
yes. I'm sorry, I have not done public comment on the last two. Is there any public comment?
We don't have any public comment in the room. However, Kara Warner is online. Kara, please unmute yourself.
Hi, thank you so much. Good evening. This is Kara again with the Napa County Bicycle Coalition. I just wanted to note that under 6.3 General Park Rules, number 3, bicyclists are required to wear a helmet per the vehicle code. That's actually not accurate. Bicyclists are only required to wear a helmet per the vehicle code if they're on a Class 3 e-bike, which isn't allowed in the park, or if they're under the age of 18. So just requesting that there's either clarification there that that applies to people under the age of 18, or that that's just a park rule, like an administrative rule, because we try to do, you know, a lot of education, and that can confuse the public if they see that. And then we also want to encourage folks not to pass this with the inclusion of reducing speeds to 5 miles an hour when passing. First of all, if you're passing a bicycle, you'll never pass a bicycle if you're going 5 miles per hour. So that would be kind of an impossibility. But also, a lot of bicyclists can't maintain balance at 5 miles per hour. So it becomes a danger to the bicyclists to go that slow. It's also not a norm locally. I think Commissioner Christian pointed out one example where this exists, but this generally doesn't exist on these types of paths. It's not a generally accepted norm, and it's probably going to be confusing because it's not a norm locally either. Generally, people slow to the point where it's safe. That's usually what people do. We don't have any kind of issue locally with people running into each other on these paths. So the other thing is that most bicyclists won't know how fast they're going exactly, because only really e-bikes have a speedometer on them, unless you're a kind of more enthusiastic rider, and then you tend to have something like that on your bike, but most folks aren't going to know. So it really is a safety hazard to force people to go 5 miles per hour. And you also have to consider that people who are walking may be going slower than 5 miles, but a jogger or a runner could be going 5 miles an hour. And then again, I mean, if you're trying to follow the letter of the law, are you just not supposed to pass that person? So there's a bunch of issues that come up with this, and I don't think it's needed for safety reasons, because we're not really having that issue here locally. So I'd ask you to reconsider that and not pass this with that guideline in here. The larger cycling community isn't used to seeing this, nor do I think that they would agree with it. So that's just something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
There are no other speakers online.
Okay. I'm going to go back to commissioner comments, questions. Commissioner Christian?
Yeah, the way it's written, it doesn't just apply to passing another bicyclist or passing another people. It also is when you're coming up to the cattle. And so a lot of other places where you would ride a bicycle may not have cattle, but as was discussed, the Newell it's a big compromise. There's a lot going on up there. And I think that it's a good rule to slow down to 5 miles an hour when you're passing cattle or sheep or whatever too. So I don't want to get in trouble here. The bicyclists, a lot of them don't want to slow down, but they won't agree to speed limits of any form or shape or anywhere that I'm aware of. And they have some good points, but there are pedestrians out there too, and there isn't a Napa County pedestrian coalition that comes in here and advocates for pedestrians. So I think the 5 miles an hour is a good thing. I'm not swayed by the Bike Coalition's comments. Thank you.
Chair, may I add some context around that rule?
Yes.
So as you recall, this was a big discussion with the Land Trust, and part of the approval process was asking for permission and providing how we would regulate this new recreational activity with the provision that we currently have in the conservation easement. And this was a rule that they had approved with the condition of allowing electric bikes up in Newell. So that's just something that we would want to consider. If we're going to change it, then we most likely will have to go back and have that conversation with the Land Trust, because it is in the letter in which that we submitted to them, where we got receival for the approval to allow electrical bikes up in Newell open space.
And just to clarify, now, the rule isn't just for electric bikes, is it? It's for
It's
bicycles.
bicycles in general, but we specifically, the way that to allow it, we wanted to make the rule apply to all bicyclists, but in general for the approval with e-bikes, it's going to be really hard to differentiate between a bicyclist and an e-biker. And quite frankly, we don't have the enforcement arm to be able to enforce something like that. And yes, it is a rule that we're comfortable with, but we're also we're also expecting bicyclists to be responsible while they're up there and around the cattle and pedestrians and everything else. And it is something that we would like to communicate to the community, just to be responsible bike riders and be considerate of others. And surprisingly or not, we have issues just like this down at the wetlands. 2 years ago, I had to do a bicyclist trail etiquette video and of how to properly pass pedestrians and on the trail. So it's not just Newell. We're also having issues throughout the city that our community has expressed concern around.
And you don't need an electric bike to go fast downhill. You'll go just as fast on a regular bike, because you can go as fast as you can control the bike. The only thing that limits you, whether you're electric or regular, when you've got gravity, is whether you can control the bike. So it wouldn't really matter between them. Thank you.
Thanks. Youth Commissioner Mintalar?
Hi, yes. About the bikes, I do have a lot of friends that do ride electric bikes, and I don't know if they really agreed with the 15 miles per hour. However, I did offer them, like, for example, bike paths that I know of. Is there anything you suggest that they could do as alternatives instead of just riding higher than 15 miles per hour around the city?
Were you talking 50 or 15?
15.
15.
So to answer your question, this rule would apply to Newell open space. So if somebody was to be up in Newell on a bike of any kind, we would ask that they would follow this rule and not have a max speed of 15 miles per hour. That rule doesn't apply to the other trails around the city. I don't believe that we have a speed limit on the trails as of right now.
Got it. Thank you. I'll let them know.
Great, thanks. So back to Kara's comments, and we're still talking about that. We tried to get down to 5 miles per hour on our bikes out in the wetlands, and it's really hard. But I would think if I saw a sign that said maximum of 15 and 5 miles per hour when passing, I would try to get down to 5, but if anywhere close to it, I'm not speeding by somebody. So I get what Kara's saying, but I think that we should leave it, especially since the Land Trust this is what was involved in trying to get them to approve having bikes in Newell. Back to the bike helmet thing, do we need to modify that? So that's my question based on her comments about.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and look at that rule because I did pull the that rule from the California Vehicle Code, and I may have just accidentally left off something. So I'll go back and review that and make sure that it's written correctly.
Great, thank you. And we already did public comment. Are there other commissioner comments and questions at this time? So the next steps, I'll send you my little list. After WRA looks at it, then it comes back to us again?
Yeah, so that's the plan. So we're going to compile all of the edits from WRA, the Land Trust, and then any edits that you provide to me. We'll try to put that all in here, and then we'll bring it back one more time to take a look at and for discussion, and then hopefully we can wrap this plan up and we can bring it to council, and they'll be happy with the product of the work that we created.
Thanks. When do you need my little list? By Monday?
Whenever you
Okay.
can get it to me.
I can
yeah.
get it. Okay, thanks. Okay, and our next and I believe final item is the fiscal year 2025-26 capital improvement program.
Great, thank you, Chair. So as part of your work plan for fiscal year 24-25, it's to talk about potential projects or projects that are already planned for fiscal year 25-26. So on the list that is provided to you this evening in the staff report, you have 9 projects. There are 7 that you are already familiarized that have already been part of the capital improvement program budget, and there are 2 new ones. So the 2 new ones are going to be number 2 and number 4. So number 2 is going to be install more EV chargers throughout the city. That is that it would, if, let me take 2 steps back. If the budget gets approved for fiscal year 25-26 and these projects get added, that would give us funding to be able to install additional EV chargers throughout the city. And then item number 4, this is kind of like a 2-parter. So this is the Measure AA grant where we were awarded $1.2 million for design and environmental for the project that identified the kayak launch, the North Slough Culvert, and the bridge trail improvements. And that actually is going to go to the board, which is the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority, in June. So hopefully that gets approved and then we get that money. And then if the council approves this list, then we can put that on our project list for 25-26. But other than that, all these other projects have already been approved by council and have some sort of open space, active transportation, or sustainability element. And that is why we are bringing it here to you this evening as part of the 25-26 capital improvement program. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner, questions? I have one question that relates to 2 items. So the item 1, where are those charging stations going? And the same thing for item 2.
So item 2 has not been identified quite yet. We're still working on that. But item 1, that's the charging ports here at City Hall, Napa Junction, and the Philip West Aquatic Center. And so closing out that grant and adding some more in some of those locations.
Okay, got it. Okay, so any public comment?
Yes, we have Kara Werner online. Just one moment, please, Kara. All right, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hi again, commissioners. I'm just not seeing in these plans what elements are going where. So I'm happy to see something that talks about the Class 1 trail related to Green Island, but I'm not sure that this is much of a informative presentation, at least on the active transportation side. I'm seeing Rancho Del Mar. I believe that's like a neighborhood, but it's not calling out specific streets, just noting that Class 2 or Class 3 facilities. So it's hard to know what is planned. That may exist elsewhere on the city's website, but it hasn't been presented to commissioners for input. And so is this just sort of an information item like go and learn more and commissioners will come back and discuss it? I know that you know, there are things in the bike plan generally for what I think is the Rancho Del Mar neighborhood around Melvin and Donaldson and Rio Del Mar. But I don't know. I don't know if you're feeling informed or like there's a way to give input, but I'm not seeing in the documents, and I could be missing them. So excuse me if I have what's planned for active transportation for the items on this list that would include it, which isn't everything, but probably would include Green Island and the Rancho Del Mar paving. So I don't know if folks feel informed or if they can weigh in, but I'm not sure how they would. So that's my question and confusion. Thanks.
Thank you. Do you want to address that? I think some of these have come to us before and are
Yeah.
coming back, but.
I can absolutely provide some context. So like I mentioned, there are 7 projects on here that have already been approved as part of our capital improvement program. And a lot of them are improving streets and roadways. And as you have seen from past street and roadway improvements, we have brought those projects to this body because there is an active transportation element to it, where we've tried to improve that roadway and include bike lanes. And yes, it may not be identified in the projects, but you can look at more project details. And again, I will tell you, it'd be very broad at this point because the project hasn't started. The design hasn't been developed. Remember, we identify the projects. They get adopted by the city council as projects that get put on the capital improvement program. Once the project gets awarded and we have a design, that comes to this body for review before we start any work, and that's where your comments come in. You've seen that with the outdoor education. You've seen that with the new open space. You've seen that with the other projects that we've already that this body has seen and has provided input. But that's, in some case or form, the reason why you are seeing this. Really, the 2 new projects that are being identified are the EV charging stations, which is number 2, and number 4, wetlands restoration. All these other projects have already been approved by council. They are just continuing. They're moving forward as part of our budget plan for 25-26 because they didn't get it completed in the year that they were identified as a project. So if you look at the great way to tell is when the project was identified as a project, you'll see like CF24 or CF26, PR19. So that number is the fiscal year in which it got approved and adopted by council to be a project. And so these really, there's a lot of projects on here that have been approved and identified in years past that are continuing to move forward because they just haven't started, they just haven't happened yet. Doesn't mean they're not going to happen, they just haven't happened. So that's kind of some context around it. All of these projects are on our website. They have some details in regard to the roads in which that they will specifically impact. I did not put that in the staff report because it is on the website. And it's, again, the only 2 new projects are the EV and the wetlands restoration plan.
Thanks. And Commissioner questions? Commissioner Christian?
Yeah, I would like to support Kara Werner's comment on that. I think I don't really have the expertise to look at engineering drawings and see, okay, well, this is good, this is bad, whatever. But the Bike Coalition does. That's something that they're really good at, and they come up with different suggestions that can improve. So to whatever we can, to the extent that we can, I guess if we're able to see it, then the public's able to see it. And so I would advocate for that to be available to Napa Bike Coalition so that they can make suggestions for improvements and before it's all done, because a lot of times it's really hard to change it after it's been approved by staff and okay, this is what we're going with. There's not really a lot of impetus for the city to say, oh, well, let's change that because this is better, right? So as early as possible, I would just advocate for the Bike Coalition with their expertise to be able to see as much of the detailed designs as they can see. That's my point. Thanks. And, and we're lucky to have them to review these documents and to offer to help with all these plans.
Great, thanks. Any other commissioner comments? Any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Oh, we just had the public comments, sorry. Going in a circle. Okay, so thank you. And I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about these projects coming months. Okay, next on is management and staff oral reports.
Thank you. So I wanted to provide some updates to you about some things that pertain to this body that you might be interested in participating in. So on March 14th, the Napa Valley Vine Trail and Bay Trail Vallejo section grand opening will be taking place at 11 a.m. at the Vallejo Ferry Terminal. On March 15th, the American Canyon Community Parks Foundation will be hosting a mustard flower hike at the Newell Open Space from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. On March 22nd, there will be a community garden cleanup day at the community garden from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Also that day, the American Canyon Community Parks Foundation will be hosting a hot cocoa walk at the Shenandoah Park from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then lastly, April 26th, we will be holding our annual volunteer appreciation banquet at the DoubleTree from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. and tickets are currently on sale. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat the date for the event at Shenandoah?
Yes, it is on March 22nd.
Thanks. Okay, Commissioner questions. Youth Commissioner Mintelaar?
I apologize, but I wanted to address item number 5. So, to give you some context, back in 2022, we passed a climate emergency resolution and made a pledge to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2030. And that date isn't just some random number, it's a scientific threshold for preventing the worst to come. In that resolution, we also committed to implementing both immediate and sustained actions to support this achievement. But as of today, there's still a lack of immediate and sustained emergency scale implementations of our interim climate action plan action items, and instead they're listed as on hold. And as a reminder, people trust OSATs, and any further delay causes more discouragement. It is our responsibility to protect the future for younger generations, and as somebody who's a part of this younger generation, also as an older brother, I'm asking the OSATs to get busy on climate action and show results as it's a part of our job. Please support a work plan that takes the climate emergency seriously. Set the example for evaluating all planning development through the climate lens. Does a project add greenhouse gas emissions, further degrading the climate, or does it rapidly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in American Canyon? So if OSATs can't do it, then who will? Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we need to keep that in mind when we're working on our work plan for next year, because I think we have a lot of questions about where are we, how are we going to move forward? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other questions relating to the management staff reports? I think I had a question and now I've forgotten, so I'm good. That's it. Hold on. Sorry, I've misplaced my agenda. I think the next thing is adjournment, and at 8:05 we'll be adjourning. Thank you.